Hi, everyone. So my name is Millie. I am from the Deep Soul Awakenings podcast, also from Phoenix Moon Apothecary. So I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself, give you a little bit of my background. I am a Reiki master. I am a lactation consultant. I am a trained postpartum doula. Um, I've been on the spiritual path for many, many years. I've always been on some sort of spiritual path. If it wasn't the path, then it was the path to the path. But it's always been this way. I first started off my path with, worship of the goddess. And the goddess, it went to different variations of her. My patron goddess will always be Artemis and Isis as well. They've both always had my back. I've been on this current iteration of my path for about 4 years now. I am also an ordained minister. I've had many, many teachers along my path from various different African traditions to courses in curanderismo, traditional medicine, to classes on Reiki and energy. And I am a very big, big fan of Cindy Dale. So I do study a lot of her books on the chakras, a lot of her information. I've taken some of her classes as well. I'm currently taking a class to read Akashic Records by Debbie Solaris. I say all of this to say that I have really, really been a lover of information. And the reason why I started this course and created this beautiful workshop of different spiritual tools that so many of you can use while starting on your path is because I remember when I first started on my path, especially when starting to work with plant medicine, it was like, you sit in ceremony and you have these beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ceremonies and you come to these beautiful conclusions and understanding, but then it's kind of like, where do I go from here? What do I do from here? How do I keep this feeling? How do I keep this understanding? And everyone that I've worked with and everyone that I've spoken to and even friends, people always ask me, well, how do you get started? What do you do? What did you do? So I decided to create this 7-week course to kind of give everybody just that information. I know for me, when I first started, I wanted like a template. I wanted like tools. I wanted you to tell me how to do a lot of things, even like how to create my own altar space. So this essentially is my response to those questions and my way of honoring spirit. I feel spirit has been telling me for a long time to kind of put all this information together and share it out. So I'm going to continue to do so. I was originally giving this class live for 7 weeks where, I would give the class and there would be moments for questions. But I've got a lot of things in process. I haven't been doing so great health-wise. I'm also raising two boys, so I decided to make it recorded sessions that people can just kind of follow at their own pace. With each class comes homework for the week. It is definitely best to take the class, absorb the information, do the homework, do it consistently for the next 7 days, and then continue with the next class so that by the end of 7 weeks, you do have a solidified spiritual practice. You do have a solidified way of doing things, way of connecting where you are feeling kind of more comfortable in your own practice and in your own skin. For a lot of us, the information that we're seeking and the knowledge and all of the beautiful things that we're looking for already exists within us. So this is my way of helping others to kind of unlock that ancient memory, unlock that inherent knowledge, and tap into it a bit more. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into the first class. I'm actually going to be posting this class only on YouTube, just in case there are others who are looking to, obtain some of the information. And in my opinion, everybody should have an altar. So I'm more than happy to share the information on, how it is that I got started. And I say this to say that, if you do stick with the 7 weeks, if you do stick with the homework every day, you will see a change after the 7 weeks, not only in yourself, but in the energy that you are and the energy around you. So I really hope that you come along for the journey. So just give me 1 second, and I am actually going to share my screen. So the name of this course, this workshop, is creating a foundation for your spiritual practice. It's building a personal connection to spirit. I chose this specifically because for me, in my experience, these are essentially all of the steps that I took in order to create my spiritual practice, create my connection that I have to all of my spirits, my ancestors, and just to create that working relationship between you and your higher self, your inner child, all of the energies that be. So the first thing that we are going to be talking about essentially is what's an altar space. So an altar space is a sacred space created for connecting with the divine. It can be a place for prayer, reflection, meditation, and also a space to honor your ancestors. For a lot of us who do this spiritual work, our ancestors are our guides, our ancestors are the beautiful energies that lead us on this path. And this is really a great way to just honor that connection in itself as well. An altar is considered like a portal for connection with the beings around us that can be felt but are unseen to the human eye. So the altar can act as a safe space for connection, but also an invitation for communication with spirit, your ancestors, and also your higher self. I'm also getting over the flu, so please forgive me if I cough or if I clear my throat or anything like that. So an altar can have as little or as much as you like. Each space should always include a glass of water and a candle. The water is considered like an offering of libations, and it is a sign of respect and a way to say thank you, essentially, to all of the beautiful energies that you are connecting with. The candle signifies a connection to the spirit world. It acts as a portal between the physical and the astral planes, the spiritual planes. And then incense as well can be used as an offering and for purification of the space. So it's thought that the incense smoke in itself is also acts as purifier for your space. So altars act as portals between worlds. The offerings that we leave give energy to those in spirit. In the same way that that offering of libations, that offering of water can also be used to kind of like give energy and satiate the thirst of your spirits. Incense, again, is used as a source of purification. The smoke has the ability to cleanse the space, and the smoke typically signifies prayers rising to the heavens. So it is thought that as that smoke rises, along with that smoke, so does your intention, your prayers. Ideally, an altar can be created in a space in the home where it can be a designated sacred space, but it's not necessarily needed for the connection. Your altar space can also be in a specific space outside. It's really up to you where you want to create that connection. I prefer to have an altar space at home so that there is that specifically designated space for all of my spirits and all of the beautiful energies that I have that are in relations with me to communicate with me, but also a space to honor them in itself. The space that you're going to use should be cleaned and cleansed. So, in terms of cleaned, soap and water, just clean the space, clean the area. cleansed. It can be cleansed with sage, it can be cleansed with incense, Palo Santo, whatever it is that you use specifically to clean your space. And it should be done before setting down that water and the candle. It is important when setting up an altar space that you are not drinking the water that you're offering or eating the food that you're offering. When you are changing the water, disposing of the water, you can give it to your plants as an offering back to the earth, or you can even pour it down the drain. When offering that water, you should also have a specific glass cup that you use for your altar only. But then also on a side note, when it comes to altar spaces, when it comes to offerings, it's okay if a pet or one of your babies, one of your children drink from the water or eat from the offering that you're giving. It is thought that pets and children are the closest to the spirit world. So if they are drinking that water, eating that food, then that is literally, maybe your specific ancestor, maybe your specific guide pushing your child to drink the water or eat the specific food. Our children are always considered to be as and us as well as ancestors return. So for our children, when they come into these bodies, when they come into this life, they are most connected to our ancestors and spirit. Um, just also, again, as a side note, when creating altar spaces, that water, that incense, that candle can be the basis of the creation of your altar space, but it doesn't have to be limited. You can also put plants, you can put flowers, really anything that calls out to you. I know for me, when I first started with my altar, I had a lot of pictures of my deceased loved ones that I had on my altar in itself. Depending on the traditions that you follow, there would be a separate altar for your ancestors and then a separate altar for you to connect with your guides and your spirits. If you connect with gods, goddesses, to connect with them as well. I would encourage you to really follow what feels right to you. When I first started, all of my things were together. My ancestors, my goddesses, my statues, everything was together. And then as I continued along and I continued on my work, I felt the calling to separate my altars and to create an altar space specifically for my ancestors only. So it's really thinking about what works for you, what flows for you, what feels right to you. In all of this, you know, the basis of it all for me, really, when speaking to all of you and giving this information, is really encouraging you to connect with your heart space, to connect with your intuition, and to start creating a practice that really feels good to you, that follows what feels right to you. Within this lifetime, we have spent so many decades and just lifetimes following the spirituality of the church and all of these different things that tell us essentially what we need to do or tell us what we need to feel or how it is that we need to do it. And this, for me, is my way of helping others who are like myself connect to their heart space and really allow their spiritual practice to be their own, one connecting with spirits on their own. I say this, with also the understanding that this is specifically for your practice. This isn't for you to hold ceremony and different traditions along in, because in those aspects, when holding, let's say, plant ceremonies or even cacao ceremonies, there are specific ways to do that, which is why it is considered a ceremony in itself. But this course, this class specifically is for you. It is for your spiritual practice. It is to really sit and understand what feels right to you and allow that to be your guide. With that said, there is also a rule of thumb that you should not post pictures of your altar anywhere online. It is always thought that portals can work both ways, in which it allows access to your spirits, access to your space, and a way to communicate with you. It can also allow others to have access to your space. So, with these sacred spaces, it is always best practice to keep them to yourself and not to post pictures of them online. Sacred spaces, altar spaces should also be cleaned periodically. Your water should be changed every 2 to 3 days or whenever you feel the need. If the water looks cloudy, then it should definitely be changed. Offerings of food and fresh flowers can always be made. I was taught that the offerings allow the ancestors to take energy and gain strength. So if you are asking for help, if you are asking for things to manifest, if you are trying to make things happen, then best practice would be to also leave those beautiful spirits, those beautiful ancestors, those beautiful guides, offerings in exchange for whatever it is that you're asking for. Because in this relationship that you're creating, there should always be a sense of reciprocity because you cannot take, and not give. There must be an equal exchange within it. You'll also notice at times that when you go to change your water, that there is less water within the cup. Usually, this is a sign that the ancestors or your guides or whoever it is that you're connecting with are working for you in spirit. So, when thinking of offerings, always think of it as an exchange of energy. And the same way that when it comes to these classes or when it comes to even some of the people that you may work with for, spiritual healing or Reiki sessions, there is always that exchange. In a lot of cases, because of the currency within this world, the exchange is money, but money in itself is an energy. So there's always going to be that exchange of energy. At times as well, you will also notice that bubbles will appear in the water. This is typically a sign that there is strong energy, but please, please, please don't think that if you don't see any bubbles in the water, that there isn't any energy. It does not mean that at all. Just in some situations and some of the things that you're doing, you will see the bubbles because there is a lot of energy that's accumulated in that space. In the same way that for some of you, who maybe sleep with a glass of water by your bed, sometimes you'll notice that when you wake up in the morning, that glass of water has a lot of bubbles in it. And that's usually because while we're sleeping, we are in the astral realm. And in the astral realm, there is lots of energy. And that energy is captured and represented within the bubbles of that water. So, next, we are going to talk about the 7 directions. I say this to say, when you have an altar space and you are sitting and you are connecting, who is it that you want to connect to? Who is it that you're calling out to? Who are you looking to build a relationship with? So, in my studies and in everything that I have learned, I have learned that essentially there are 7 directions that we tend to call out to. And this is pretty consistent in a lot of the different traditions that I have learned in and that I've had the grace of being able to just have that knowledge and wisdom shared with me. So the 7 directions can be different based on the tradition that you're learning from, of course, because with each tradition, it is always a little bit different. But when you do a lot of studying, you will come to see that a lot of the information is also pretty much the same or very, very similar. So the 7 directions can be based on, again, a tradition that you're learning from. Within many indigenous traditions, these are commonly known as the 7. So there would be the direction of west, which correlates with water. And in the cycle of life, essentially, west water represents death and rebirth. It is what's known as like the darkness, the void, the space of creation. And it is represented by the color of black. North is the element of air, which is represented by passion and self knowledge, which is associated with the color red. East is earth, which is associated, of course, with the beautiful, beautiful sunrise and connection to spirit, and it's associated with the color yellow. South is associated with fire and with the breath. It is associated with voice and wisdom and sharing of that wisdom and is represented by the color of white. And then we go into, of course, the beautiful sun, our beautiful, beautiful and loving grandfather sun, who is associated with healing, light, warmth, growth, and life in itself. Our grandmother moon, who is associated with reflection, protection, the shadow release, shadow work in itself. And then, of course, there's spirit, which is ether, and it represents the connection to, connection in itself, connection to source, connection to the great spirit, connection to the universal oneness and all that is. Many traditions also consider the seventh direction to be the heart, because it is thought that your heart space is what connects you to all. It connects you to everything that is. It is something that allows you to be, that is allowed to be your guide and lead you into the right direction. So our ancestors are also thought to live among the stars in the night sky. So they guide us from above, and when we feel lost, we can always look to the stars to find home, to find our center, to bring us back home. So the first four directions can be considered like a life cycle, right? So west is first on the list because it is a point of creation. When our souls embarked on this journey, we all came through the void, the darkness within our mother's womb. And within that darkness, we grow within the sacred waters. And moving through the directions, we go to north, which can be compared to adolescence, where we begin to understand a sense of self. We begin to, understand that we are individuals, we are people. This is where we begin to set that foundation of, who are we? Within this space, we begin to understand passion and begin to feed the fire within our hearts. So we can choose to feed this fire, negative thoughts, or we can feed the fire love in various aspects. It really depends on what it is that we're feeling, what it is that we're doing. So if you've ever noticed, somebody who's angry will always find reasons to be angry. But someone who practices gratitude will always find things um, to be grateful for. So it really depends. What are you feeding the fire in your heart? This is where we began essentially to make choices and face the consequences, good or bad, of those actions, of those choices. It is important to be mindful of the things that you feed yourself, mind, body, spirit, everything as a whole. These things tend to become a reflection of your energy and begin to become that fire within you. For example, words are super powerful. If you continuously listen to songs about heartbreak, you will continuously find yourself within that space. You are essentially calling out to it. You're calling out to heartbreak. You're calling out to reasons to be sad, essentially, because this is the words that you're singing. These are the things that you're feeding your heart. And when you think of that reciprocity, that energy exchange, you're feeding yourself sadness, you're feeding the world sadness, and it continues to be a cycle and a circle. Next comes east, where we begin to seek connection and make connections to those of us who have come before us. This is essentially comparable to like adulthood, where we begin to understand that there is more to life and us as souls. So the east is essentially, where you guys are now, that place of seeking, that place of looking for that beautiful connection. In the south, we come to a place of wisdom and becoming an elder. This is a space where we begin to bestow wisdom upon future generations and act as their guides. This is essentially where we set the space for the ancestor we will be. In what ways do you move in order to become that ancestor that you want to be when you are no longer in a physical body and it is the future generations calling out to you as their guide? The four directions in themselves are like a wheel of life. The sun and moon on this journey are like loving grandparents. Grandfather sun gives us healing and light. Grandmother moon gives us a place for reflection and always places us under her protection. Spirit or ether is the essence essentially from which we all came. It is the everything that we are, that universal oneness. We are fractals of the Great Spirit. We are all pieces of this beautiful universal oneness, and we are all mirrors of each other. So this is essentially where that aspect of collective consciousness comes from. We all fractals from the same source energy. Therefore, we are all mirrors of each other. That's why there is always that saying of, you are who you hang out with, because everyone around you is a mirror of something within yourself. So if you have friends maybe that you admire so much because you find so many beautiful things about them, that is because they mirror those beautiful things to you. But on the other hand of that as well, if you have people who tend to annoy you around you, then there is something within yourself that is mirroring to you, that is triggering you at the same time. So next, I just want to go into talking about, an altar space prayer. Prayer in life is very powerful. It's very important. It is crucial in a sense. And then when I say prayer, I don't want you all to really start thinking about the prayers that we receive from the church and all of those other things. Prayer to me is like spoken word. It is the words that you hold in your heart, the words that you hold in your heart space. And when we are connecting with our altar spaces, when we are connecting with our spirits, when we're connecting with our ancestors, we should always utilize prayer and be specific. What energies are you looking to connect with? Who is it that you want to call out to? What ancestors do you want to talk to? And I know for a lot of us, when it comes to ancestors, we are a little iffy because we have only had experiences with the generations that we're alive to know, essentially. But we have so many ancestors and we have so many different guides on this journey. And for a lot of us, a lot of our guides, they were the medicine people. They were the people who were connected to the earth and connected to spirit and connected to all of the beautiful powers that be. And we, as their descendants, us as their family, being part of their lineages, we are able to connect with them. We are able to speak to them. We are able to call out to them. So, when sitting in your altar space, when connecting with this altar space, when creating this altar space, really think about who is it that you want to connect with and how is it that you're going to do so. So, in doing so, I am going to encourage all of you to create an altar space prayer. Your prayer can be as simple or as in depth as you like. The basis of it is to set an intention, of course, because intention in all of this is key. Because your intention is your goal. It's the energy that you're putting out there that you are calling back to yourself. The basis of it is to set an intention of connecting with spirit, connecting with your ancestors, connecting with your guides. It does not have to be a specific prayer connected to any religion, unless you want it to be, which can be as well. It's really up to you. But it can simply be speaking from your heart. You should call for protection when connecting to ensure that elevated energy is only entering your space. This can be as simple as asking Archangel Michael to engulf the space in a white light of protection. I give the example of Archangel Michael specifically because he is someone who I have worked with for many, many years. And honestly, in my experience, when you call out to him, he will answer. A simple prayer that I use is, please engulf my space in a white light of protection. Please remove anything that is not in alignment with me. But it's really up to you of what it is that you want to call out for, you know, and then really think, who is it that I want to connect with? Do I want to connect to the Great Spirit? Do I want to connect to the grandmother and grandfather spirits of my lineage, of my ancestry? Do I want to connect with my elevated ancestors, known and unknown? Our ancestors, their spirits, their energy, they are here, they are ready, they are wanting to connect with us. But unless we set that intention, unless we give that invitation, they are unable to do so. They can send you signs, they can make you aware, they can kind of nudge you on your path to lead you to the point. But it is always up to you that's to set that intention, to set that connection, and to invite them to connect with you. You can also connect with the seven directions: earth, air, fire, water, spirit, the sun, the moon, your heart space, your inner child, your higher self. It's really up to you. Another phrase that I use when connecting is my team in spirit of the highest light and resonance. Your higher self, your RE, is essentially you at a higher, in a different dimension, in a higher frequency, with more understanding, with more wisdom. And who better to guide you on your path than another version of yourself? Because in this journey, you will learn and you will see that, you know, who we are here to connect with, the people that we are here to be with, the connections that we are going to have. We are looking to connect with ourselves and to essentially just be. I'm going to stop sharing for a second because I'm not sure if I messed up the screen initially when I did it, and I just want to make sure that everybody can see what I see. So I'm sorry. Um, but it's really sitting and thinking, be intentional. Who do I want to connect with? Who do I want to guide me on this journey? Who do I want to share all of my relations with? So, an opening prayer can be as simple as I call out to you, Great Spirit, and my elevated ancestors, known and unknown. I call out to you to build our communication and a connection. The prayer that I use specifically for protection is I call out to you, Archangel Michael, and I ask that you engulf my space in a white light of protection. Within this white light, please remove any lower vibrational entities, beings, energies, and take them to the light. And in their place, I ask that you place the energies of love, grounding, and protection. I thank you for the service that you provide, and I'm in gratitude of you. And I usually end it with aho, which is another way to say kind of like amen, to show those relations, to show respect and honor in Navajo. For closing, because when you open a space, you're always going to want to close that space. It's kind of like saying hi and goodbye. For closing, I always give thanks to all of those that I've called out to. I thank all of the spirits who have shown up, and I really, really thank them for holding the space for me. You know, this all is to really get you started in thinking, who is my guide? Who is it that I connect with? Who is your Amakua? Who is that main energy that's going to guide you along on your path? Who do you want to connect with? And really being intentional with it. Our kapuna, our ancestors are the ones who guide us on these journeys and pave the way for us to be able to be who we are. Their prayers are still protecting us from generations ago. We are able to be in these spaces. We are able to be who we are because of the prayers of our ancestors. And if you are here in this class and you are still here listening to me and taking in information, you do feel that call to connect, and you do feel that call to really take ownership of your spiritual path and your life, and what's done in the physical is also done in the spiritual, and you must equally tend to both of your bodies in these places, both of these aspects of yourself. So if you are here, I definitely say that you are here with purpose and reason. And if you have been looking for a way to connect, then this is a beautiful way that you can start to connect from your heart space and build those relationships. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to have homework, of course. So for homework, we are going to get into practice. Homework for this week and for the next, well, essentially the next 7 days is going to be to create an altar space and set up some time to connect daily. This can be any amount of time that feels right to you. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It can be first thing in the morning. It can be when you go to sleep. It can be in the middle of the day. It's really whenever feels right to you. And whenever you have time to dedicate yourself fully for those maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, an offering of fresh water, a candle. I would definitely recommend the tea light because it burns out a little bit faster and we want to always be safe when burning candles. And incense should be given every day. So you're always going to have that fresh water, that candle, that incense during that daily practice. Fresh flowers can be included. It can be a specific space that you're going to use every day that you're going to use as an altar space. Or it can just be a space where it's like, okay, I'm going to connect today. And you set down that water, that candle, and that incense. It's really up to you. It's more or less to get you into that practice of setting that time to connect every day. When sitting at your altar, it's going to be important to speak out loud and to speak from your heart. Talk to your spirits. Let them know what kind of connection you want to have. What is it that, what relationship do you want to build? All of this, your life, your journey, your connections, your relationships, all of it is up to you. And you can make it what you want to be and you can make it what feels good to you. And in my experience, in starting to build a connection with spirit, to build a connection with your ancestors, you start to build that connection to self because all of this is essentially you. It is all connected to you. It is all a beautiful reflection of you. So you get to decide what it will be, what it will look like, and what it will feel like. And you get to decide that it's beautiful and will feel amazing. And sometimes when you sit at your altar, it may be kind of heavy because that day you might be feeling a lot of heaviness on your heart. And when you're sitting in this space, this is a sacred space. So I encourage you and I invite you to really allow yourself to speak freely from what you're feeling, to release everything that you're holding and release everything that you're feeling in a safe space so that you can begin to really get that understanding that everything that you've been carrying can be released and it doesn't have to always be pushed inside and held. It will definitely be helpful to journal after sessions, after sitting in your altar space, so that you can take note of any messages you receive or reoccurring themes. Remember to utilize your opening and closing prayers. It's also okay sometimes to just sit in silence and connect. The ways in which you connect will come to you naturally. Try your best not to overthink and just kind of flow with it and go with what comes to mind. Sometimes you may want to sit and listen to music. You might want to sing a song. You might want to dance around. It's really up to you. I know when I first started and I first called out to my ancestors, I remember just sitting there and crying. And at first, I didn't understand why I was crying. And then within my path and within continuing on this journey, I realized that those tears were a release of energy, but also those tears were a manifestation of the happiness that my ancestors and my guides felt because I was finally accepting this invitation and giving them the invitation to connect with me as well. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have. I'm always happy to answer questions. And, remember, allow your heart to guide you, allow yourself to kind of follow the flow of the ways in which this feels good to you. There is no wrong or right way to connect with your ancestors. There's no set way. The way in which you connect is the way in which feels right to you because this is your path and this is specifically for you and something that you're doing, not only to connect with everything that is, but to connect with yourself and understand yourself and understand who you are. So, with that, I say thank you and thanks for sticking it through. If you're interested in continuing with the classes, please feel free to check out the links on my profile. For these first 7 weeks, they'll be released weekly on Tuesdays. If you're coming across this after those first 7 weeks, then there is access to all of the classes at once. But I do definitely invite you to take one class a week and to follow through with the homework weekly. Um, in my experience, by doing it in that way, by the end of 7 weeks, you will have a solidified practice and foundation and footing in this beautiful connection that you're growing. And it really helps to just begin to change your life in a way where you are at the forefront and you are in control. So until next time, peace. Sending you guys all the love. And always remember that if there's any times where you feel lost, you can always look to the stars and your ancestors will guide you home. Bye.